Where? 2021? I was like 16 that time. I'm NDA. Wow. My god. Ay, gago.
However, Roger Clark's first appearance on Fox been an episode of Law and Order SVU. That alone isn't anything special, but it becomes more important when you realize that a bunch of Rockstar's actors appeared on this show before getting their roles. Both Ned Luke and Stephen Ogg both appeared on the show before GTA 5, as well as Roger Clark, although his appearance was after RDR2. However, Roger Clark's first appearance on Law & Order just happened to be the exact same episode as Manny L. Perez. That's already a ton of coincidences, but it doesn't end there. She also stated that she was switching her career to motion capture and voice acting, which would fall in line with GTA 6.
Right now, I have been transitioning my career into voiceover and motion capture.
And to top it all off, she's already played a character named Lucia on a show called East New York. This, however, is 100% a coincidence since Lucia is just a very popular Latina name. However, this role she did as Lucia helped provide what I think is one of the most intriguing pieces of evidence. You see, by this point, most of the people in the community were fully convinced that they had found her. When people found her Instagram, the community started flooding her comments with Lucia, and she responded to these messages by completely blocking any more comments on any of her posts. But why block them if there's nothing to hide? Think about it like this. Let's say Manny is not Lucia from GTA 6, and you have done another role as a character named Lucia. Wouldn't you want the exposure of people commenting your character's name on your post? Even if it is some fans of a game series thinking you're someone that you're not, you want to use that to your advantage. The only reason I can think of why she turned off her comments after being exposed is because she got exposed. People had figured it out, and the only way to stop them is by shutting off the comments, which are still off to this day, and it was nearly 6 months ago since the community found out.
So the trailer comes out. A buddy of mine that was in my acting class in LA 20 years previous.
He ratted you out a little, didn't he?
Yeah.
What did the director say, by the way?
You know, there's nothing you can do about it. You know, just can you kill your, you know, I killed all my social media. You know, so I killed my Twitter, I think I love Instagram, but mostly it was Twitter back then, and I just killed all that.
Now, of course, all of this info I have just said won't be confirmed until the game comes out in 2025. But with all the evidence from her looks and voice, her working on something big and disabling her comments after being exposed, everything points to Manny L. Perez without a doubt being Lucia from GTA 6. But whether or not this evidence is substantial enough is ultimately for you to decide.
It's come to my attention that a Rockstar Games iceberg video has not been made yet, so I've decided to break down the entire Rockstar Games iceberg, all 100.
When you hear the name
Grand Theft Auto 6
GTA 6
leaked for real, the biggest leak in gaming has occurred. There was a massive leak of GTA 6 footage.
First trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6
leaked early online.
GTA 5 source code was leaked.
New GTA 6 leaks just dropped.
Leaks are everywhere. And unfortunately for Rockstar, GTA 6 has been hit harder than most when it comes to being leaked. So with that said, I went and found every time actual leaks were posted and compiled every single leak into one video. Going from the first info we got all the way back in 2018 to the multiple mysterious trailer leaks that happened in
Grand Theft Auto 6.
GTA 6
Grand Theft Auto
biggest
6.
leak in gaming has occurred. There was a massive leak of GTA 6 footage.
First trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6
leaked early online.
GTA 5 source code was leaked.
New GTA 6 leaks just dropped.
Leaks are everywhere. And unfortunately for Rockstar, GTA 6 has been hit harder than most when it comes to being leaked. So with that said, I went and found every time actual leaks were posted and compiled every single leak into one video. going from the first info we got all the way back in 2018 to the multiple mysterious trailer leaks that happened in December. This is every single GTA 6 leak so far. We start this journey all the way back on March 5th, 2018, when we were given the first credible information about GTA 6 ever. On this day, Inside Gaming, which was formerly The Know, uploaded a video sharing the first details of GTA 6 given to them by an insider who still has not been named to this day. They mentioned in the video how GTA 6 is codenamed Project Americas and that it would be set in Vice City and the addition of the first female protagonist, which we all know now is true. It's important to note that they didn't get everything right, like traveling to South America and the release date, for example, but being more than 7 years out to the actual release, it could be that these details were planned, but were later deemed unfeasible. At the time the video was posted back in 2018, a lot of people thought it was fake. However, Brian Garr, the writer and person who was given the info by his anonymous source, recently stated in a podcast that after the video was released, Rockstar, quote, flipped out about the leak.
And so I got a tip, and this was 6 or 7 years ago, about GTA 6. Rockstar flipped out.
Oh,
like,
wow.
they locked down the studio to find the leaker.
So even though the people watching didn't know it at the time, this would go down in history as the first real GTA 6 news that we would ever receive. After the video was posted, the leaks would go quiet for the next year and a half. However, the next leak wouldn't be as straightforward, and actually had to be stitched together using different information over the course of a few days. It all started on October 6, 2019, when user Fresh305954 posted on Reddit claiming that Rockstar Games directly asked for permission to take photos of their local shop in Wynwood, Miami, which looks very similar to somewhere we have already seen. Respectfully though, this person got absolutely dunked on in the replies, with people bringing up an extremely valid point that Rockstar would never out themselves willingly like that. However, just 2 days later, they would then upload the written document their shop had been given by Rockstar, confirming that it was indeed real, but even this still had fans very skeptical. It wouldn't be until someone noticed a big clue that could tie all of this information together that people started to believe its legitimate. Miami directly asked for permission to take photos of their local shop in Wynwood, Miami, which looks very similar to somewhere we have already seen.
Oh, wow.
This person got absolutely dunked on in the replies, with people bringing up an extremely valid point that Rockstar would never out themselves willingly like that. However, just 2 days later, they would then upload the written document their shop had been given by Rockstar, confirming that it was indeed real, but even this still had fans very skeptical. It wouldn't be until someone noticed a big clue that could tie all of this information together that people started to believe its legitimacy. While most of the document is just corporate speak, Redditors began to take an interest in the very bottom of the page, which read Leah's IMDb, and that this person was a location scout/manager for a company called LMGI. When you type Leah LMGI into Google, a page for the Location Managers Guild will pop up, and it features a very interesting name, Leah Sokolowski. With some more digging, people were able to find a video from May 21st of the same year, with Leah Sokolowski able to find a video from May 21st of the same year, with Leah Sokolowski appearing as a guest on the Film Florida podcast, which is something very intriguing.
So I've also been very fortunate to get a large client that has hired me to arrange basically site notes to
Been something very intriguing.
So I've also been very fortunate to get a large client that has hired me to arrange basically site tours and visits. It's a digital media company, and I've signed an NDA, so I can't disclose who it is, but they've been exploring various areas of our state and of other states in the southeast.
This finally had everyone convinced, as people put two and two together to figure out that Leah was indeed talking about Take-Two in this clip. We had gotten information about GTA 6's location, like with the 2018 video, but this pretty much without a doubt confirmed the location was set in Vice City, and at this point most people believe so as well. Before we move on to the next single leak, I wanted to quickly highlight all of the individual new patents by Take-Two and Rockstar that have been found over the last 5 or so years. In fact, if you count every new patent that was issued after the release of RDR2, you still get a total of 25 new patents. While not all of them are entirely related to GTA 6, there are some that we have a pretty good idea that are, like improved NPC driving, so hopefully this won't happen. Or this. There is still a ton to read through, and if you want, you can find the list to all of Take-Two's patents in the description below. It would just take too long to include each one individually, but they did provide a lot of valuable info, so I wanted to make sure I at least mentioned them. Moving on, after confirming the Vice City setting, it would be more than 2 years later, aside from patents, till we would get any more news about GTA 6, until finally, on June 27, 2021, we would get some more info from a name we all know and love. If you are into GTA 6 leaks at all, then you definitely know the name Tom Henderson. Henderson is a known GTA, COD, and Battlefield insider.
Yung maano mag-leak, accurate mang-leak.
Henderson would post a video sharing every detail he was given by his anonymous Rockstar insider. While some of the information he listed was some stuff we had already went over, like the Vice City location, for example, a lot of his info was brand new. He mentioned how GTA 6 would feature an evolving map that would be added onto over time, as well as a modern setting, and each one of his info was brand new. He mentioned how GTA 6 would feature an evolving map that would be added onto over time, as well as a modern setting, and even a release window. And given Tom's track record with leaks in the past, most people took this as 100% legitimate almost instantly. However, while this information was huge at the time and was the most we had ever gotten so far, it would become completely obsolete just over a year later. September 18th, 2022. Arguably not only the darkest day in Rockstar's history, but also one of the biggest video game leaks of all time. Arian Kurtaj, an 18-year-old member of a hacker group called Lapsus, accessed and downloaded over 90 videos of early development footage before posting them all to the GTA forums. It's believed he was able to do this by hacking into Rockstar's Slack accounts, which is a remote productivity software used by a bunch of huge companies. While Arian first tried to negotiate a deal with Rockstar to have the videos returned, but after Rockstar failed to answer, he released them all for free in one of the biggest breaches in video game history. This leak resulted in over 50 minutes of development footage from late 2019, as well as the entire GTA 5 source code. While some people were skeptical, most knew instantly that this was the real deal, and it would be confirmed by Rockstar themselves just a few days later. The information gained from this leak was so monumental that a 60-page document written by fans surfaced that compiled every single feature, detail, and mechanic found within the 90 videos. Now dubbed the GTA 6 leak document, there are over 600 different details found that are listed within the document, and if you want to take a look, the link is in the description. Arian Kurtaj was once again arrested after this leak, but was deemed unfit to stand trial and would later be found criminally responsible and guilty and sentenced to an indefinite hospital stay where he will remain, possibly forever. Beyond this huge leak, not many others would live up to its impact, but there are still a couple others we have to cover. On December 1st, just 4 days before the trailer was supposed to release, a video was posted on TikTok of a 13-second pan of the GTA 6 map. This video is low quality and not much can be made out of it. However, people were able to take this footage and match it to some of the already mentioned leak footage and confirm that it was a part of the same map. People had no idea who this was or how they got this info or if it was even real. But later the account proved it was real in one of the biggest twists of all time. It turned out that the leaker was none other than Aaron Garbutt's son, who, if you don't know, is currently the head of development and co-studio head at Rockstar North, and has been with the company since 1996. However, because of the footage not showing much, we didn't really learn anything particularly new from this leak, which is likely why we never heard an official statement from Rockstar. And with the trailer right around the corner, we would get not only another, but our final
leak.
just shortly after this. Just 3 days after the TikTok leak, Rockstar would once again face another blow. After 10 years of waiting, Rockstar had finally announced they were going to release the trailer for GTA 6 on December 5th, 2023. But unfortunately, the trailer leaked just 1 day early. A video was posted on X, or Twitter, by an account literally called @GTA6 Trailer Leak, and had a giant Buy Bitcoin ad stamped over the trailer. This post quickly picked up a lot of traction while people tried to decipher whether it was real or not. However, they wouldn't be arguing for long, as just 40 minutes later, Rockstar would tweet out saying, "Our trailer has leaked, so please watch the real thing on YouTube." And while this was already a bad enough blow for Rockstar, this wouldn't be the only leak that would happen for the trailer, as it seems that multiple people had their hands on it. At noon on the same day, user Jarl of Rivia posted a detailed account on Reddit of quite literally the entire trailer. I made an entire video dedicated to this dude and another named Well Look Who's Back, who both share details about the trailer, which you can find in the description of this video if you're interested. However, these leaks would have very little effect on Rockstar's trailer release, as it would still go on to break the record for most viewed video in 24 hours on YouTube. And from this point on, Rockstar has managed to go pretty much leak-free since, and they plan to keep on doing so with the back-to-work mandates. If you enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe. It would truly mean a lot. It took a ton of research to make this video. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. We're now used to Rockstar taking years and years to deliver us their next masterpiece. But even with all that extra time, there's one thing that not even Rockstar can avoid when it comes to releasing games, and that's the failed launch. We've seen just how bad they can get with games like Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky, but not even Rockstar is safe from this either. From GTA Online characters getting deleted, to RDR2 on PC looking like this is the history of Rockstar's failed game launches. By far, one of the biggest failures Rockstar has ever faced was the disappointing launch of GTA Online. After the insanely successful launch of GTA 5, Rockstar was set to launch GTA Online just a few weeks later on October 1st of 2013, but this did not go according to plan. Rockstar had highly underestimated the amount of people trying to play, and simply didn't have enough servers to allow everyone. And due to this overload on the servers, GTA Online was filled with more game-breaking bugs than Rockstar could have ever imagined. For starters, for the first 2 days, almost no one could even get online at all. A few lucky people could sometimes log in during non-peak hours, but you would usually get about an hour of play before the game would boot them offline once more people flooded the servers. Rockstar was working around the clock to not only solve these problems, but also to acquire more servers, which they were in desperate need of. Eventually, Rockstar would fix the problem of people not being able to get online, but to say they were able to actually play would be an extreme exaggeration. You see, back in 2013, when you created a new character, Lamar would pick you up from the airport and drive you to a race you need to complete in order to finish the online tutorial. Except this race would never load. People would have to close their game and retry over and over and over again, hoping for it to finally work. And if you played GTA on the old-gen consoles with the insanely long loading times, you would know just how much of a pain this really was. And that wasn't the only time the game didn't load. Infinite loading screens were 90% of everyone's GTA Online experience in the first week of launch.
I've seen this same cutscene like 500 times!
But even worse than not being able to progress was the players having their progress completely wiped away. The biggest issue Rockstar was facing from the lack of servers was the connection to the Rockstar Cloud services. During the first couple of weeks of launch, GTA Online would frequently disconnect you from the cloud services, rendering anything you do afterwards completely useless.
Putang
Many
ina.
people were reporting having bought an apartment, roaming around a little longer before getting off, then coming on the next day to find their apartment gone. And while that sounds bad enough, imagine if it was your entire character that was deleted. When people were unable to connect to the Rockstar Cloud, a message would pop up asking players if they'd like to retry. For some reason, if you hit retry, there was a good chance the next time you logged into online, your character would be permanently deleted. It happened so frequently that Rockstar had to issue a PSA telling everyone not to hit retry and instead go back to single player if they couldn't reconnect. But unfortunately, this warning came a little late for some people. These issues would persist for the first month or so after launch, with them finally resolving most of the issues with a patch on November 5th, 2013. And as an apology to everyone who had to deal with the infinite loading screens, deleted characters, or not even getting online, Rockstar would gift every player with $500,000, and this would officially end the disastrous launch of GTA Online. But while GTA Online may be the most devastating launch Rockstar ever faced, it most certainly wouldn't be the last. RDR2 was by far the most detailed open world game ever released back in 2018. So when people finally heard it was coming to PC in November of 2019, people were just as excited again to see what this game can really look like when pushed to its limits. In reality though, the PC experience was more daunting than exciting. Much like GTA Online, most RDR2 PC players couldn't even open the Rockstar launcher, which you needed to launch the game. But for the lucky players who were actually able to launch the game, they were then met with a whole catalog of problems. A ton of people were reporting their game crashing every 20 to 30 minutes. It also seemed that no matter how much or how little you crashed, you were almost guaranteed to crash going to certain places like Valentine, for example. But that 20 to 30 minutes of gameplay in between each crash wasn't that great either. From constant stuttering to whatever the hell this is, the game was riddled with visual and technical bugs everywhere. And the worst part is that not even Rockstar knew where the problem was coming from. It was so broken that some people were actually getting better performance the higher they set their graphics, which makes no sense to me and made no sense to the players at the time. The community went on a hunt to figure out exactly what they can do to fix these issues for themselves, but because everyone uses different hardware, most people just had to wait for Rockstar to release an actual patch. Most of the problems seem to have stemmed from Rockstar's new game launcher, which they had released only a month before RDR2's PC launch. Rockstar, over the next month or so, would release a novel's worth of changes and updates to try and solve their issues. And once again, for compensation to the players dealing with these issues, Rockstar gave a care package to all PC players. By now, the game is basically back to a normal running state, But while Rockstar was able to fix most of these problems, fixing the next global disappointment would be almost impossible. While RDR2 and GTA Online failed mainly due to technical issues, the same cannot be said about the Definitive Edition. The GTA trilogy launched similar to RDR2 PC Edition, as after a few hours of launch, the entire Rockstar game launcher went down, meaning people who bought it couldn't even play the Definitive Edition or any other Rockstar game for that matter. These issues were quickly ironed out, however, and once people were able to finally play, that's when people realized just how soulless and devastating the games really were. For instance, most fans were not happy about the art direction Rockstar decided on for these remasters. Most of the characters and textures did not quite live up to the Rockstar standard that people look forward to. Not to mention the countless spelling mistakes, graphical errors, and a few noticeable gameplay bugs. At some points, the game didn't even run at 60 FPS, and this is in a game with graphics comparable to The Simpsons Hit and Run on the PS2. A lot of people felt like the games didn't pay homage to the legacy of each game very well, and looks more like Rockstar just preyed on people's nostalgia for a quick and easy paycheck, which leads right to the worst part. The reason Rockstar was getting more backlash about these games than usual is due to the fact that they completely stopped anyone from buying the original games as they took them off of their own store, which forces people to then buy the Definitive Edition if they ever want to relive these memories on their favorite old games. On top of that, Rockstar also sent out targeted DMCAs towards some old mods for these games. For example, Rockstar took down the Vice Cry Remastered mod so that people couldn't download that instead of Rockstar's own remaster, which fans were not happy about. So not only did they release a game that most people didn't like, but Rockstar also stopped these people from being able to relive the true experience they got back all those years ago, unless they can find a physical copy. So even though this game didn't have technical issues that held back its launch, I'd argue that it's worse that Rockstar just straight up made a game that people didn't like and thought was a complete cash grab. Now, it is important to note that Rockstar themselves didn't actually work on this game, and it was instead handed to Grove Street Games to work on, but being under the Rockstar umbrella and a remaster of old Rockstar games, I still lay all the blame with Rockstar. Even though Rockstar is one of the most well-known and respected game companies out there, it doesn't mean that they're perfect. Whether it be technical, graphical, or outright just sloppy work, not even Rockstar is safe from a bad launch. So even though Rockstar has had some shaky runs in the past, we can only hope that come 2025, GTA 6 won't have to share the same fate as some of these games.
So imagine this. The world has just been blown to smithereens. Earth as we knew it is gone. And what's more, there are zombies and other vicious creatures spawned from an alien element that now roam a desolate, lava-filled wasteland. All that stands is not just the ghost of a village or town, but a whole planet. A planet that was blown up by a crazy German guy and his pals because he simply wanted to for his own selfish reasons. And now all of that has led to the start of a new era for Call of Duty Zombies. A new kind of horror. It's the spooky season again, and what better way to celebrate it than with a deeper look at one of the best zombies modes of all time. Don't listen to that guy. This video is late, and it is in fact not spooky season. Not on your channel.
With just a few words, I'm going to shatter your mind. There are more characters in GTA 5 than just the main characters. So while I have made videos using my 10,000 hours of GTA 5 experience to answer every question you had about Michael, Trevor, and Franklin, my job is still not done. In this video, I'll be answering all the questions about the rest of the GTA 5 cast that you've asked me over the years. giving you that hot, juicy lore that you literally can't get anywhere else. What was Lester's involvement with helping Michael in the past? As far as we know, Lester has always had the exact same role, in that he plans the heists. He works out the finer details, the logistics.
We'll go robbing soon. I'll find someone. Just like the old days. Either we hit a bank in the sticks or we do a store. Which do you like?
Before the jewel store, you talked about a score, a bank in the sticks. I need you to meet us there. Polito Bay, right?
That's the one. I'll get on a bus.
What's stopping me from riding off into the sunset, huh? With my saddlebags of bulges.
Lester's the only guy who can flip metal without making a noise, dipshit.
And for that, he's paid 20%. It's basically the same thing he does in GT Online.
You talk to Lester?
Yeah, I called him. Apparently he's in the hospital having his vagina cleaned or some shit. 20% saved. What, are you jealous because you didn't get your 20%? You'll get 20% of 200 million.
If I can get the funds diverted and you pull it off.
Still, come on, 20% of that's a lot of coin for sitting on your fat ass.
Lester's never fucked up the end game, not ever. He's the best there is.
Well, yeah, he better be. We pay him enough.
Well, I guess paying him 20% beats robbing the government and having to give it all back, huh?
That was an innocent mistake. Anyone could have made it.
Apart from Lester. This is what we pay him for. He'll get us paid, and he'll get us paid clean. Now is not the time to doubt him. Besides, where's he gonna run to?
He can't even run. Okay, just enough, okay? I get it.
A small thing to note is that if you actually try to calculate it, Lester never seems to take even close to 20% of any heist you do in the game. But then again, his cut might be calculated after some fees or some such. What was Lester's role in the prologue heist? There are two references that say that Lester wanted nothing to do with that job. There is some deleted audio from prologue where Brad's like, haha, we're saving 20%.
You know what feels good? Not giving the walking stick 20 cents on the dollar. That's what feels good. We don't need that prick. We never have.
And of course, Michael directly states during the Merryweather heist that Lester wanted nothing to do with that job.
We're doing it my way, because as I recall the last time when we did it your way, we all got shot at, you got buried, resurrected, turned into a twat, and Brad ended up in a fucking prison.
Yeah, and Lester told us not to do that job, but we did it anyway.
So Lester was just not involved. Did Lester know that Michael was going to betray Trev and Brad? I doubt it. Certainly Lester did later on figure out that Michael was alive, but I don't know of any evidence to suggest that he knew beforehand.
Is this still the number for Lester Crest?
I'm living in Los Santos, just like you. You gotta figure that I never told anyone that instead of gently decomposing in North Yankton, you're angrily decomposing in Los Santos with a shrink.
Putang
My wife
ina.
doesn't love you no more.
What did Lester do during the 9 years after the failed heist in North Yankton? There isn't any evidence to suggest that Lester stopped doing any of the things he was doing before North Yankton, which is setting up heists, making a bunch of money, fucking with people, hacking into places he's not meant to hack into, getting the dirt on the rich and powerful, watching people through their cameras, any of the weird shit Lester likes to do.
Let's get drunk. Franklin, fill up the glasses. Vintage moonshine, hillbilly type shit. We're gonna be singing triple and committing incest in minutes.
What the fuck?
Drunk as a skunk. Then I'm gonna reverse engineer a webcam and spy on those sorority girls again. Frankie! Yes, Doc. Lester needs a drink. I like my scores like I like my dates. Across the street and unaware they're being watched.
Nothing suggests that Lester was only involved in doing this underhanded stuff because of Trevor and Michael. He has no reason to have changed. Remember that within minutes of seeing Michael again, Lester effectively says, yo, I've been hacking into this guy's emails, here is a bomb, go put it in this guy's phone.
That fuck is a lying bastard. I've read his fucking emails. He's a fucking cheat. Take this, fashionably retro weird for a 45-year-old man, but I cannot let go of the 1980s bag. The prototype is somewhere in the Life Invader office. Find it and fit it with the device in your bag. Oh!
He
Can
didn't
you
make a
direct-
plan and then build this for Michael. He already had this device and he may have used it himself even if Michael had not shown up. I think it's reasonable to believe that he would have ducked his head down while he was figuring out what happened in North Yankton and whether he was at any risk, but he'd be right back to it after he felt secure.
I know you never mentioned my name. I know I'm not on any lists anywhere. I know you never betrayed me. I kept tabs on him for a while. Needed to know that he didn't blame me.
Not only is Lester responsible for almost every additional person that we get for every heist, but when Michael asks about getting back many of the people he used to run with, Lester knows exactly where they all are because he never left the criminal game.
We're gonna need a crew. I can round up some of the old guys. There are no old guys. Moses, ironically, he found Jesus. All those Irish crazies, they mostly just disappeared. That group in the south, they all went down. There was an Eastern European guy making moves in Liberty City. He you ain't quiet.
Let us also not forget that the very first heists we do in GTA Online with Lester are meant to happen before the single-player story in the timeline. Our GTA Online characters are the people he is referring to with this line to Michael.
You got any contacts in LS or not?
I've been working with someone, but they're too unpredictable. I'll have to reach out to some other guys.
GTA Online gives us even more of a reason to suspect he didn't retire during that period, because after the conclusion of GTA 5, he does actually temporarily retire, and the reasons he gives for doing so were not present until the end of GTA 5.
Look, whatever you want from me, whatever this big new job is, I'm out, okay? I'm done. I already took every decent score in the state. I cleaned out the Union Depository. I took down the IAA and the FIB. I rang the bell on half the Boss Act 500 CEOs. I had more money than I could ever spend. Okay, so that's it. I was just like a retiree. Now, I actually am one.
But despite all these reasons that he can now actually retire, he still loves the thrill of the heist life, so it doesn't take much convincing to get him out of retirement for the casino heist.
And why would we do that?
Aside from rob stuff with cash and different guest consignments every week, there's the challenge. Better security than anything you've ever seen. A truly dynamic and adaptive system.
No offense, Miss Chang, but every job I've ever done was impossible. Until I did it.
Perhaps. But do you know what? They told me you were the best in the business. And it only took me 5 minutes to film myself.
Okay, maybe I'm a little stale, but I'm not coming out of retirement every time some new money sink opens up. I'm gonna need more of a reason.
Then maybe you do it for me. Because I'm asking you as a favor. I'm not looking to make any money out of this. Anything you get is all yours.
I need a base of operations.
Find something, but we can't have anything to do with it. Your associate will have to be the front.
I'm not gonna pretend I haven't already looked into this job a little bit, professional curiosity.
How does Lester not know where Trevor is before he returns and confronts Michael? I honestly think it was just because Trevor's lifestyle made him hard for someone like Lester to track. Lester explains to Michael that he at least initially tracked Trevor to make sure he wasn't being blamed for what happened in North Yankton, and he further explains what Trevor was doing the last he heard of him.
I kept tabs on him for a while, needed to know that he didn't blame me.
Yeah, where'd he go?
North, south, east, west, wherever there were liquor stores to turn over and hitchhikers to disappear.
Where did they bury him?
They buried him? Not as far as I know.
This dialogue suggests that Lester just stopped tracking Trevor when he confirmed he wasn't an immediate threat. But I think Lester still would have wanted to keep tabs on Trevor if he could. This, of course, wouldn't be for emotional reasons. Lester says there was nothing holding them together after Michael disappeared, and it's fairly obvious that Lester doesn't really like Trevor.
Is it too much to ask for a little respect? Just a little? Because I respect you, Trevor. Strangely, I do. I can see how you're useful. Terrifying, but useful. What you thinking? I'm thinking I don't like being in close proximity to you for extended periods of time. And the same for short periods of time.
But even if Trevor didn't blame Lester at the time, which made sense as Lester wasn't involved, it doesn't mean he wouldn't have blamed him in the future. Trevor is a bit crazy and unpredictable. I am sure Lester would want to know if he was coming for a visit. But Trevor was seemingly off the grid for quite a long time before ending up in Sandy Shores, a place in the middle of nowhere that is barely connected to the sorts of technology that Lester usually monitors to find and track people. In other words, I don't think Trevor is the kind of guy who'd be easy to track. You'd have to go very low tech and actually hire people to follow him. And those people would probably end up dead.
It costs a lot of money to track you down. I record every favor I could in the Midwest, and then you kill several good men.
In other words, if Trevor was using the same phone and email address that he used prior to North Yankton, you can imagine Lester would have kept up with whatever he was doing. But obviously, Trevor didn't want to be found.
But why are you out here?
It's off the grid. We're away from it all. It's somewhere real and authentic. This is America!
So either Lester was eventually unable to track him, or he was unwilling to go the effort without some new development giving him a good reason. Does Lester know what happened to Brad? I don't think he says explicitly, but he does know that Michael betrayed Brad and Trevor in North Yankton. And if he could figure that out, it probably wouldn't be too hard for him to figure out that Brad wasn't in prison. The most explicit reference I'm aware of is on Surveying the Score, when Trevor starts to speak about breaking Brad out of the paint. To me, it sounds like Lester is trying to keep the information that Brad is actually dead from Trevor, and he even at one point speaks of Brad in the past tense before quickly correcting himself to the present.
I ain't even talked to Mike about it yet, but he's gonna be on board. He's obligated.
What is it?
Ain't it obvious? Bustin'
And the groceries and the laundry for the cat and the dog
Okay,
and
I'm
some
gonna
with some
stop you
coffee.
there,
Bought a
T.
gift for
Some
your mother
things
that
are
you
just
saw your
better
life.
left
Paid the
alone.
bill, wiped her butt, broke up a couple fights. Then I just about lost my mind. We both took it
Well, a
hits
crew's
apart.
more than a sum
Someone
of
said
its
to you,
parts, and he was a pretty shit part.
you are such a good dad.
And that's only because
You
No,
are
he
such a
was.
good
He is
dad.
shit because he's lazy,
I woke
forgetful,
up
mean,
Friday
and stupid.
screaming in the
With
hallway. There was
respect.
bark in the bed. So another load of laundry. Our
I
kid was
will.
crying, so we talked
I gotta
about
talk
our
to
feelings.
your plan.
You were sleeping.
Talk to Michael and come back to me.
While I can't tell you when he found out, it does seem
You
pretty obvious
got
that
up
Lester
and
knew
your
that
mom
Brad was
came
dead
over
and not in
and
prison
she
and was trying to push Trevor away
said,
from finding that out.
You
How did Lester
are
even learn that
such a
Michael
good
was still
dad.
alive, let alone where he lived and his
You
phone number?
are
Lester was
such
easily
a
in the
good
best
dad,
circumstances
such a
to be
good
able to
dad.
find out Michael was still alive and where he lived. Lester had worked closely with Michael for over a decade, so he may have known more about Michael than anyone. Lester also already didn't like the job in North Yankton, and its outcome actually affected his life. His associates just got taken down, and for all he knew, he would be next. So unlike most people, he actually had a reason to dig deeper. Lastly, tracking and monitoring people electronically is a large part of what Lester does. When Michael is kidnapped and Franklin calls Lester to ask if he knows anything, Lester has all of Michael's electronic footprint in seconds.
Hey, look, you seen Michael?
Let's see. His phone is offline. His credit cards aren't active. This is aberrant behavior. The last usage is for upwards aren't active.
Hey, look, you seen Michael?
Let's see. His phone is offline. His credit cards aren't active. This is aberrant behavior. The last usage is for a flight to North Yankton. There was a signal from his cell back in Los Santos, but now nothing.
In ending C, Lester finds the exact location of Wei Chang, Stretch, Steve Haynes, and Devin Weston with little effort.
Can you get us whereabouts? I'll do my best.
But it wasn't as if Michael and his family were hiding very well either. Sure, Dave was protecting them, but they were on the grid in one of the largest cities in the country. That despite this, Michael would still be hard for others to find was largely because he was very restrictive with what information he let others learn of him.
Wouldn't laugh, wouldn't hang out. I've got my work, I've got my life, and never the two shall meet.
Staying hidden was also easier given that the public didn't know what Michael looked like, but honestly, no one else really had any reason to look for him, so that was kind of a bonus as well. After not seeing him for 9 years, how did Michael know Lester was in town?
Look, I only know one way to make money. I'm gonna have to give an old friend a call. I think he's in town somewhere. I'm gonna have to track him down.
I think the only reasonable way that Mike would think Lester is in town is the same reason Dave was worried when Michael did the jewel store job.
The whole job. Everything about it. Anyone who knows your file, what is wrong with you?
Criminals tend to do things in a particular way that works for them. Even with Michael out of the criminal game, Michael would still potentially hear of heists being pulled and recognize Lester's handiwork. This seems even more likely when you remember that the original heists in GTA Online are set before story mode. Some of these heists we do actually pull for Lester. Michael does initially reach out to Lester using the same phone number that he used 9 years ago.
Is this still the number for Lester Crest?
It does seem unrealistic that Lester would still have the same number, but it's likely the case that Lester has many different numbers that he monitors, and he only lets people through if he actually wants to talk to them. How did Steve learn about the deal Michael and Dave had? I am fairly confident that it's not said anywhere explicitly. But connecting the dots, on Dead Man Walking, Dave does say that anyone who goes through his files could find out about their deal.
What if I lose my job? Someone comes into my office, starts reading my files. They'll see the things I did. I know a lot of stuff. I can cop a plea, get 5 years, but you, fuck you, ungrateful prick. I made your career.
And after Michael does the jewel store heist, Dave says, anyone who knows your file, what is wrong with you?
The whole job. Everything about it. Anyone who knows your file, what is wrong with you?
It is also important to note that Steve
What is
just
wrong
recently
with
become
you?
Dave's boss.
Michael? Dave? To what do I owe this pleasure?
Just want to talk.
You behaving yourself?
Of course.
And how are the kids?
Great. Amanda, too. She sends her love. So how's the job?
Good, thanks, yeah. New supervisor, Steve Haynes. He's on that TV show. He's okay. Well, it was nice to catch up.
Same to you.
Dave also does text Michael to say explicitly that Steve is looking around his file. Listen, I know you're probably irritated by the, shall we say, favor I just asked of you. I wish I hadn't had to involve you, but my boss has been sniffing around some old cases. I know we had a deal, but this is just a new agreement. I wish it were different, but as I said, you broke out of my protection yourself when you started doing your thing again. I made clear that would be a problem. You ignored me. I will do my best to protect you as a valued friend of my firm, but you're going to have to play ball. I think the best explanation is that Steve was looking into Dave's only significant career accomplishment due to recently becoming his boss, which familiarized him with Michael. He then heard about the recent jewel store heist, recognized it as exactly how Michael operates, and confronted Dave about it and the likely holes in his reports. It is also hypothetically possible that the jewel store was completely irrelevant to Steve finding out. But I think we should give Dave some credit. I doubt he wrote down explicitly in his report, I used FIB resources to hide a wanted criminal so I could pretend I took him down to advance my career. What was going on with the FIB versus IAA subplot? It's simply that the FIB and the IAA want more funding, and apparently how much either get depends on how much funding is given to the other.
The funding war between IAA and FIB intensifies after Congress promised to slash spending and both agencies recommend it's the other one.
While there are some vague references that these organizations are having issues with their budgets, these issues are best explained by Weasel News. Security agencies go head-to-head for funding. They are often described as the twin pillars of our national security, but now the FIB and IAA have found a new enemy, each other. Following calls for balanced budgets and a proposed reduction in defense and security spending, both agencies have been lobbying hard in the Capitol recently to explain why their budget should stay intact. Both agencies criticize the other and blame them for America's problems domestically and overseas. Neither would do so on the record. They are at odds with each other because any crime stopped by another group is just one they can't be seen stopping themselves.
There's a big target out there, something in the shadows. Whoever finds it, the Bureau or the agency, is going to get a big bump in funding.
Like I care about your funding.
These entities care more about being seen as effective at stopping crime, rather than actually stopping crime itself.
No, it's not about being effective, it's about seeming to be effective.
With this understanding, you can see why the FIB would do things like stealing Mr. K away from the IAA. If the IAA got information, they just stopped the terrorists before the FIB. A boost for the IAA and a loss for the FIB.
You're a fucking spy.
Just to be clear, Mr. K is almost certainly not a spy.
And the asswipes at the agency know this. So I need to know.
What did you tell them? And what did they tell you? I love helping our government wage war, especially with itself.
Ultimately, both agencies are trying to show that they are more capable and more deserving of funding. Of course, much of our lens into this conflict is through our interactions with Steve and Dave, who are more interested in their own prosperity and success than that of the wider FIB.
You are my boy now, amigo. My career depends on this, and that's very important to me. So seeing as we're all boys now, that makes it important to you.
Basically, while the agencies are against each other as a whole, individuals within those agencies are not necessarily even acting for the best interests of their team in the conflicts.
You will show me and my team some respect. Maybe you could define team for me. Is that just the three of you? Or the greater FIB? Or the entire government? Because I'm tempted to argue that thus far, we haven't shown a lot of your colleagues a whole lot of respect. Why don't you start with me, genius? You got it, pal.
Pretty much everything we do for Steve revolves around stopping the IAA from achieving something that would make them look good, which in turn will enable Steve to do something that will make him and the FIB look good instead.
Some of it government, some of it is pretty corrupt.
Not your bit, right?
Yes, but we're corrupt in a good way.
But the agency, they want to encourage panic so they can guarantee their budgets. That's how they get paid.
It's a major problem.
And now they've secured some funds that we need to use in our fight against crime as a way of bribing corrupt officials.
We think they're going to use this money to finance a war on our streets. And we need you boys to requisition that money for us.
On the mission to wrap up, we see all the government entities show up. These being the IAA, Stephen Dave's FIB contingent, Agent Sanchez's FIB contingent, and Merriweather. Merriweather's inclusion here may seem odd as they are a private entity, but they were recently allowed to take on domestic jobs, receiving billions in government
Oh my god, ang
contracts.
laki.
Weston profits from Congress's decision to allow Merriweather Security Consulting to expand domestic operations. Expect more privatized high-security firms to begin domestic operations as the war on terror continues to rage.
Each of these groups are there to effectively call everyone else corrupt, while only they are the real good guys trying to save the day.
Good guys, bad guys.
We've got you. Anti-American activity.
Put your weapons down, all of you!
But ultimately,
Put
this
the
is all
weapons
about
down, all
freedom
of you.
and personal career advancement.
Put the weapons
Down. All of you.
Well, no, you agency
boys are ball deep in a plot to drive up your funding by any means necessary.
It should be noted that much of what we hear about the FIB and the IAA comes from Steve and Dave, and they can't really be considered trustworthy sources. They will obviously slant things to make the IAA seem worse and the FIB better, but it is clear that both agencies are corrupt and do illegal things, although that only really becomes especially clear with the IAA when you play GTA Online.
When I ran agents in the field, I had to entrap them, cajole them, threaten them with deportation. You're never gonna know what I had to do. Now, apparently, all you gotta do is give them a couple bucks and a few kind words. I guess there really is no accounting for stupidity. But, and I'm serious now, as stupid as you are not gonna talk about what happened here. Because your usefulness to us, well, it just ran out. And for God's sake, I hope you're professional enough to...
Si ano to Sa Yumin Labs.
Threaten them with deportation. You're never gonna know what I had to do. Now, apparently, all you gotta do is give them a couple bucks and a few kind words. I guess there really is no accounting for stupidity. But, and I'm serious now, as stupid as you are not gonna talk about what happened here. Because your usefulness to us, well, it just ran out. And for God's sake, I hope you're professional enough to get rid of the evidence.
An interesting question, though, is how much do any of these people actually believe their own bullshit?
For the record, I'm a patriot! I love my country!
Like, Steve could sincerely have such an ego that he actually believes that only he can truly save America.
Los Santos, a city of saints, a city of sinners, and nothing in between but the FIB. Has he briefed you?
Oh, well, yes, he has. He told us that if we do what you say, then together we can take down the big bad wolf that is government corruption.
Yeah, and if you don't, we're all gonna frown, because the agency's on us. I've even got some fools in our own bureau that are questioning my methods. Think I'm a liar, a cheater, some kind of a killer and a thief. I do not get things wrong. You do your own dirty work. Hey, I do my dirty work every day, keeping the country safe from scum like you.
And you're doing a great job, sir.
So all the corrupt things he does to sabotage others and the crimes he commits to get to the top is all in the greater good because his having control is ultimately what is actually best. Just to be clear, he's wrong. Steve is an incompetent idiot who should have no power.
Next time I'll need a morally destitute, totally delusional, highly corrupt government agent. I hope he's a nice one.
On the wrap-up, Steve says the FIB thinks he was involved in the incident. What incident? They're talking about the Bureau raid, the thing we did just prior.
They know or think they know that I'm the one that was behind the incident.
The thing that Steve specifically instructed us to do, so he was involved.
I've even got some fools in our own bureau that are questioning my methods.
There's some evidence, and I need you guys to find out what they know.
All right, so what? You want Lester here to hack into the system, wipe it all clean?
Oh, no, that will not work. The only way to access it is through your building.
We, of course, break in and then either hack and delete the files on site, or we just steal the entire drive, depending upon which approach we pick.
You want another drink?
I think I better stay at least a little bit sober. I gotta deal with Davey and Dickwad yet. Put things to bed. Hey, boys, I hate to break up the ritual, but I gotta go square things up with Davey and Dickwad.
For serious?
Hey, I just want them to know that now that we did this thing for them, and we have the evidence that we did this thing for them, that we can all go our own separate ways, you know?
If the FIB were under Steve, why didn't he get fired? Especially after everything went down on the wrap-up. Dave, after the wrap-up, says they just pinned everything bad on Agent Sanchez. Given that Sanchez and basically everyone else was dead, it wasn't like anyone could contradict their story.
I saved you again, Davey. Again. So what are you gonna do for me about Haynes, the rest of the FIB, the IAA, and everyone else, huh?
History's written by the living, okay? We can pin most of it on Agent Sanchez. I get that story right and the agency and bureau will back off. I can spin Steve that you're controllable, but not Trevor.
Steve.
He's our wounded hero right now. I gotta cozy up to him, calm him down.
Just get me out.
Was the vial we stole on Monkey Business actually nerve toxin, or was it just perfume formula? So it's obviously Steve that claims it's a nerve toxin.
Sources are convinced there's a plot in international affairs, the agency, and they're using this facility to make a serious nerve toxin. Bullshit. Yeah. Which they plan in their mind-blowing insanity to let a major terrorist release on a metropolitan area so they can continue to get funding. Nothing increases funding for fighting terrorism more than successful acts of terrorism.
The main characters do not express any doubts that this story is true.
There's this research laboratory on the coast. The IAA are using it to manufacture a poison gas that they're going to release on U.S. soil in order to hope
that the government increases their funding.
Well, that sounds idiotically improbable enough to be possible.
It was only after the heist on the news that we hear a contradictory narrative.
Industrial espionage in Blaine County as thieves steal perfume formula. Some highly trained thieves raided a research lab yesterday in order to steal perfume. Several men were killed as raiders carried out an audacious attack that has confused the lab's owners and criminal investigators as the robbers escaped with a new formula for cheap perfume, and no one is quite sure why.
Given the amount of heavy resistance that we meet, I don't think it makes sense that it was perfume. There was like armed guards every 2 feet. Sure, the news says that previously they were attacked by wildlife activists, but I mean, come on. As well as how insanely fast reinforcements arrived, including the military, that doesn't make sense for perfume.
A distress signal will have been sent out. Expect reinforcements. The military? Great. You chose the wrong line of work.
The sound files from the lab technicians also don't make it sound like they're working on perfume.
It's reacting with a live tissue too quickly. If there was a delay, the effect would be more devastating.
The brief was to maximize toxicity. We aren't paid to second-guess performance.
I'm only suggesting potential avenues for R&D.
The security didn't seem to know exactly what it was, but it did seem sus to them.
You think they're ever gonna tell us?
Sure. Right before they kill us.
No, seriously.
Right before they put whatever it is in your breakfast cereal.
I dare you. Just a little pinprick. What can a pinprick do? Ask the monkey. Go on, a tiny amount on your hand. Look, if you go crazy, I'll video it and stick it online.
Agent 14 in GTA Online also says the facility makes nerve toxin, although he does say that the lab is controlled by the Meriwether CEO, Don Percival.
So there's this chemical laboratory called Humane Labs. A few years ago, it was leased to a shadow company run in part by Don Percival. You guys know Don Percival? Percival is up to no good in that shithole. Nerve agents, we believe. At least, that's what the intel seems to suggest.
It could be possible that the IAA got the idea to make nerve toxins here from Meriwether. Even the news admits that there were rumors that there were a bunch of chemical weapons being tested there, but these have been debunked or whatever. The perfume thing, as far as I'm concerned, is just a cover story. Why did they kill Steve Haynes in Ending C, Death Wish? Looking at it in a general way, Steve Haynes knew a lot about the main characters and bad things they've done, and therefore was a threat.
What's the problem, Don? Steve fucking Haynes. Of course it's Steve fucking Haynes. It's always Steve Haynes.
Looking at it more specifically, after we did the Bureau raid where we delete the FIB files on Macklin and Trevor, Steve is probably one of the few people who know much about them. And there's no reason to believe that Steve wouldn't blackmail the trio with this knowledge in the future.
I think they'll either kill you after this is done, or keep you doing these stupid jobs until they don't have to kill you because someone else has done it for them.
Steve just wasn't trustworthy. He would say to Michael, "You're freeing kids, don't worry about it," then immediately try and arrest him.
It's the last thing we do, and we're done. Period.
Wow, ngayon,
Of course. I'm a man of my word. Agent Sanchez, arrest these men both.
Steve,
Oh, whoa!
please.
You fucking kidding me?
By the end of the game, it seems suggested that Dave and Steve are the only two people in the government that know that Michael DeSanta used to be Michael Townley. And these two people again likely being the only people